Yeah. Okay, are there any questions? Can somebody please confirm you can hear me?
I can hear you.
Great, thank you. All right, if there's no questions, we'll begin. We're doing Lab 8 today. Lab 8 has a number of case studies that also need to be done today. Which one of these do I do? I guess that one. So let me share my screen. Don't do that. Let me remind you that you should be working on your unknown project. You will need to get started on that soon, because if you wait till the end, you'll run out of time. And how you do that is you put your results, your conclusions, species under consideration, and then your test requests in your unknown notes pages. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yes.
All right. So this is how you get to your unknown notes pages. And there's one student who actually has added a test request, however, it's incubating. Um, you won't have a speed grader, you'll have I guess there's going to be an upload link. I'm not sure what yours is called, but you click there. And if it isn't there, it might be at the bottom of the page here. So on your unknown notes page, please record your daily activities, like your test requests here. Your test results should be recorded here, and your conclusions and the species under consideration. You may upload a document thousands of times, not thousands, but infinite number of times. Please do not use the comment section. I will use the comment section. All right, let's go to Lab 8. Any questions? Well, I guess I should go with the syllabus. So what we're doing is Lab 8. And now we can get off of that. Lab 8 is identification of gram-positive organisms. We're going to be looking at gram-positive cocci, specifically Staphylococcus, Streptococcus, and Enterococcus species, as well as gram-positive bacilli, Listridium, Bacillus, Rhinobacterium, and Listeria. There are some video clips in today's lab. There's a gram-positive dichotomous key and case studies. The last two are provided as separate links in your file in Canvas. Let me show you that. There you go. So worksheet lab 8, lab module 8, and then the case studies 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are part of lab 8, as well as the dichotomous key. Only use this dichotomous key for lab 8. Do not use it for your unknown project. Do not use it for any other lab. Any questions about any of that? All right. I thought about linking these together. The trouble is, I'm glad I didn't, is that the person who made this lab 8 sent it in 8 different case studies. And I decided not to put them all together because if he changed one, then I have to change all of them. And he has changed one or two of them, in which case I just need to change that one. All right, let's go on to the lab module. So the primary learning objectives for this lab is 1, understand the principles and how to interpret the results for the CAMP test, the Bialis-Guilin test, the SF broth test, and the Optogen sensitivity test. And then 2, be able to use a dichotomous key to solve case studies involving gram-positive bacterial infections. This isn't the right one here. Let me see if I've got another one. Otherwise, I'll have to just wing it. No, that's not going to be it too, because that's the same one, I think. Oh, there it is. There we go. I have highlighted what I want to talk about. That's why I wanted this one. When specimens are received in microbiology for routine bacterial cultures, they're inoculated on culture media that will facilitate the growth of common pathogens and placed in physical environments that will support their growth, meaning they'll be put in an incubator. Microbiologists use colony morphologies and gram stains to provide important information in the primary classification of bacterial isolates. However, they cannot identify most species. Further biochemical testing is required. In this lab, we're going to talk about the CAMP test, the Bialis-Guilin hydrolysis test, the SF broth test, and the Optogen sensitivity test. The CAMP test is an acronym of 3 microbiologists' names who invented the CAMP test: Christie, Dr. Christie, Atkins, and Munch Peterson. You just take the first letter of each of these names and you get CAMP. And they first described the amplified hemolytic effect that some beta hemolytic organisms have when they're physically grown near Staphylococcus aureus. A single streak of beta hemolytic Staphylococcus aureus is placed down the middle of a blood agar plate. Perpendicular to the staphylococcal streak, another streak is made with a test organism or an unknown organism to test the CAMP test. So there's the Staphylococcus aureus streak. Let me blow that up a little. And you can see the hemolysis, the complete clearing of the blood cells around the Staphylococcus aureus. And then Streptococcus pyogenes is streaked this way. Streptococcus pyogenes is negative in the CAMP test. There is no enhanced hemolysis of Streptococcus pyogenes grown near Staphylococcus aureus. Listeria is an organism which has a slightly positive CAMP test, where there's our streak of Listeria. And by the way, I should mention that Streptococcus pyogenes is beta hemolytic. We have to blow it up really, really high, though, to see it. And there's the streak of the bacteria. And then you have a clear, slight region growing around the area. So Streptococcus pyogenes is beta hemolytic. So is Staphylococcus aureus. With here, we have the Staphylococcus aureus there, Listeria streaked here, and you can barely see the beta hemolysis of Listeria. It's very slight in this region. But in this region, this slight arrow there is slight positive for the CAMP test. Any question about any of that? And then with Streptococcus agalactiae, we have a very positive CAMP test reaction, meaning this is a very positive CAMP reaction. And there we have Streptococcus agalactiae streaked here, Staphylococcus aureus streaked there. This is the beta hemolysis from Staphylococcus aureus. This right there, it's very thin, is the beta hemolysis from Streptococcus agalactiae. And there, right there, we have a very enhanced CAMP reaction where there's enhanced hemolysis occurring around Streptococcus agalactiae near Staphylococcus aureus. And yes, the enhanced CAMP reaction usually takes the shape of an arrow. Any question about any of that? Let me shrink this down. All right, so that's it for the CAMP test. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the bile-esculin hydrolysis test. This is a tube containing bile-esculin. And when bile-esculin is hydrolyzed, it will change esculin to esculatin. And esculatin is a very dark brown color, almost blackish. Whenever you have 50% of the tube or more, brown or blackish, that is positive for a bile-esculin hydrolysis test. And there we have a negative bile-esculin hydrolysis test. Remember, negative, although I'm not going to test you on that, it could have a very slight brownish, but less than 50% of the tube. Negative in bile-esculin hydrolysis are the family Streptococcus, and then positive for bile-esculin hydrolysis are the family Enterococcus. Any question about bile-esculin hydrolysis test? All right, if not, let's move on to the SF broth test. The SF broth test is named for an organism that used to be called Streptococcus faecalis, and that's why it's called the SF broth test. SF for S Streptococcus, F for faecalis. However, Streptococcus faecalis is no longer called Streptococcus faecalis. It is now called Enterococcus faecalis, but the test is still called the SF broth test for the old name of the species. Any question about any of that? All right. In the SF broth test, we have media and glucose and a pH indicator, and the tube will be purplish in color. If the bacteria can ferment the glucose, it'll produce acid products. The acid will change the color from purple to yellow. So this is SF broth positive. This is FF broth negative. Any question about any of that? All right, Streptococcus species are SF broth negative, meaning the members of the Streptococcus family are negative for SF broth test. Enterococcus faecalis is SF broth positive. Any question about that? And I would not try to remember that Enterococcus faecalis used to be called Streptococcus faecalis. All right, let's move on to the Optogen sensitivity test. Optogen is an antibiotic, and it's used to differentiate between Streptococcus pneumoniae and other alpha hemolytic streptococci. So other members of the Streptococcus family, which are alpha hemolytic on blood agar, will be differentiated from Streptococcus pneumoniae. Streptococcus pneumonia or pneumonia is sensitive to Optogen. So here we have a blood agar plate. You have to look at that closely, but it is alpha hemolytic. Oh, where is that? There it is. So we do see some darkening around the colonies. And then they took the bacteria and smeared it in this region and then put Optogen disc on the bacteria, incubated the plate, and then looked for a zone of inhibition around the Optogen. This alpha streptococcus has no zone of inhibition or a zone of inhibition less than 14 millimeters. So that we call Optogen resistant. And it is not Streptococcus pneumoniae because Streptococcus pneumoniae is sensitive to Optogen. And it will have a zone of inhibition equal to or greater than 14 millimeters. So that's what Optogen sensitive means, that for Streptococcus, it has to have a zone of inhibition greater than or equal to 14 millimeters. And Streptococcus pneumoniae is sensitive to the antibiotic Optogen. Any question about any of that? Oh, come on. For some reason, my computer is being resistant today. All right. So microbiologists use dichotomous keys. Oh, lovely. Tried to blow it up a little bit and it went bonkers on me. Well, I'm having, like I said, a hard time controlling my computer today. There we go. Microbiologists use dichotomous keys to help them identify a species. Dichotomous keys illustrate how to arrive at a logical solution using a methodological process called dichotomous logic, where you have all organisms under consideration, and then you do the Gram stain. You can divide almost all organisms into gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. Actually, you can do that for archaea as well. We won't talk about that, but the point is you can divide it into gram-positive and into gram-negative. Now, let's say it's gram-positive, so we can scratch these out, and then we can do another test underneath the Gram stain, and we can look at the cellular morphology of the cells. If the cells are bacillus, then they split this way, and if they're cocci, they split that way. And for the bacillus, we can then separate them into aerobes and anaerobes, which actually would split them into bacillus, family bacillus, and the family Clostridium. We're not going to follow the gram-positive bacillus. We're going to follow the gram-positive cocci. So another test you can do is the catalase test on all gram-positive cocci. If it's catalase positive, then it belongs to the family Staphylococcus. If it's catalase negative, then it belongs to either the family Streptococcus or the family Enterococcus. Now we're going to say it's catalase positive, so we're going to scratch this one and then move on the catalase positive, gram-positive cocci. You can then do the coagulase test, and if it's coagulase positive, then it is species Staphylococcus aureus, because it's the only Staphylococcus which is coagulase positive. If it is coagulase negative, It's some other member of the Staphylococcus family. And then you can run the novobiocin test. If it's novobiocin positive, meaning that the bacteria are sensitive to novobiocin, then it is, I can't read that. I think it's Staphylococcus epidermidis. Can somebody, yeah, it's Staphylococcus epidermidis. If it's novobiocin negative, meaning the bacteria are not sensitive to the antibiotic novobiocin, then it is Staphylococcus saprophyticus. And that's how you do a dichotomous key. One test after the other. You divide the bacteria into two groups for the gram stain, gram positive, gram negative. For the cellular morphology, you divide them into gram-positive bacillus and gram-positive cocci. Any question about any of that? All right. Do not use this key that I've given you here for this lab. Only use it for this reading here. I think that's it. Let me check. All right. In the laboratory 8 exercise, you're not going to be physically performing any of these activities. Everything we do will be online. However, you will be held responsible for knowing how to perform and interpret these tests. So you can view the following video clips. We have a video clip on the SF broth and the bile esculin tests. So watch that video and then watch the video on the CAMP test. Let's go to the worksheet now. I think it's this one, but I'm not sure. No, that's the one I've got here. So it's that one. All right. And then review how to interpret the following test by completing the chart. To get this information, you can get some of it from this lab, but some of it you'll need to get the information from previous labs as well. The first row has been filled in for you. For the gram stain, that is done on both cocci and bacilli. If the gram stain is positive, the result will be purple in color. If the gram stain is negative, the result will be the cells will look pink in color. So look up the information if you don't know what's the positive result for the Schaefer-Fulton stain, staining for endospores, and then the negative result. And then give me the results for the negative stain for a capsule and the positive result for the capsule and the negative result for the capsule. For the catalase test, when you add the cells to hydrogen peroxide, state the positive result and the negative result. For the coagulase test, which I think was done in the last lab, give me a positive result and a negative result. For the oxidase test, the same thing. Give me a positive result and the negative result. For the CAMP test, and this one is in this lab, give me the positive result and a negative result. The bile esculin hydrolysis test, give me the positive result and the negative result. For the SF broth test, give me the same. For the optogen sensitivity test, give me the same. And then for the bacitracin sensitivity test, this one is optional. You may give me the positive result. You may give me the negative result. One reason for doing bacitracin is that you will see results from bacitracin down below in this lab. And so I've added it to this lab. And for the moment, it's optional. In the future, I'll make it mandatory. But you don't need to do it. But if you do, it'll help you understand the results in the case studies. All right, for 3, there's a video you should watch on how to develop and use a dichotomous key. Just click that link. We're not going to ask you to construct a dichotomous key. However, the video will help you understand the general idea behind such a key and therefore help you with your unknown project. And the lead instructor said he didn't agree with a few things mentioned in the video, but overall, it's a good explanation. And then you need to open the dichotomous key in Canvas, as well as the case studies to work with these bacteria here. And then for case study 1, using the dichotomous keys provided, and there's 2, a gram-positive cocci and a gram-positive bacilli. Tell me the species that caused the infection in case study 1, and then write that here and submit it. In case study 2, right here, give me the species which is causing the infection in case study 2. And I've got a note in here that test 2 is the base of trace and sensitivity test. And that's true for case study 3 as well. Test 2 is the base of trace and sensitivity test. And then do that for case study 4, case study 5, case study 6, case study 7, case study 8. When you're all done, submit the worksheet. Do not submit the lab module. For one reason, the questions have been changed, and you will not get credit if you submit the wrong questions. But for the case studies, let's take a look at case study 1. I won't go through all the case studies, but we'll look at case study 1. Come up here. Remember, we're going to use the dichotomous keys, so let me open that up. I think I've got an easier way to do this. Let me open it from here, and then it'll show better than in Canvas. So there's the dichotomous key. Page 1 is looking at the gram-positive cocci. Page 2 is looking at the gram-positive bacilli. And then let's look at case study 1, which this isn't the best way to do it. Let me open up from here again. Case study 1. A 13-year-old teenager attended a week-long summer camp. There he is there. Upon returning home, his mother notices a pustule is beginning to develop in his spider bite. The area of his arm is warm to the touch and becoming extremely painful. When her son starts running a fever, she takes him to a walk-in medical clinic for evaluation. The physician orders a gram stain of the exudate and a routine culture. Here are the findings of this test. So there's the gram stain. There's the bacteria there. These large cells are actually the boy's cells. So tell me what the bacteria is in the gram stain, gram positive, gram negative, as well as the shape of the cells. And then there's the bacteria grown on blood agar, and you can see a hemolytic pattern there. And then we did some rapid tests. Let me shrink this down a little. We took the bacteria here, put it on a slide, and did the catalase test that uses hydrogen peroxide on the bacteria. And there's the results there. Tell me if that's positive or negative. And then they did the coagulase test that uses plasma. And then they add the cells to it. And there you can see the results of the coagulase test. And then they did another test. They took this bacteria and streaked it on mannitol salt agar. The bacteria can grow on mannitol salt agar, and it's doing something to the mannitol salt agar plate, because this is the color of the plate with the bacteria. It's the color of the plate without the bacteria. And what bacteria was isolated? Any questions? If not, I'm just going to briefly look at case study 2, and then I'll turn it over to you guys to work on the lab. Case study 2. A 27-year-old female came in for prenatal care. At the end of the last trimester, her physician orders a routine vaginal culture. The female is not exhibiting any signs or symptoms of an infection. There were microbes growing from the vaginal smear. There were several colonies of interest shown here and here. And here are the findings of the bacteria. This is the bacteria growing on blood agar, and you can see the hemolytic pattern here. And there's the gram stain of the bacteria. You need to grow that up, blow that up. Did I say grow that up? Blow that up to see it, because it's too small to make certain what the shape of the bacteria is. You can determine whether it's gram positive, gram negative, unblown. Oh, come on, where is it? Right there. You have to look carefully at these cells to determine their shape. But there it is there. And then we have some other tests. Once again, the coagulase test, the results here. Test 2, shown here, and there's no zone of inhibition around the antibiotic. And I believe that's bacitracin. Yep, test 2 is the bacitracin test. Oh, wrong one. And then they did the CAMP test. So they grew the bacteria here, and there's the CAMP test, and there's Staphylococcus aureus. And what bacteria was isolated? Any questions about Lab 8? All right, go ahead and get started. I will be here until 9 o'clock, or the last student logs off to help you with any questions.